Welcome, and thank you for joining this session of Innovation Institute 2021. With nearly 50 sessions available through the summer, we know you'll be discovering new skills, strategies, and resources to transform the teaching and learning in your classroom, and we would love to hear from you. If you haven't already done so, please be sure to visit the Town Hall in Attendify to connect with the attendees through the activity stream or community features. If you would like a certificate of attendance for attending this session, you will find the request form linked at the end of the session description in Attendify. Thank you, and enjoy this session from one of our amazing Innovation Institute presenters.
Alrighty, so we're going to go ahead and get started. It is 10:45. I want to welcome everybody to the first session, which is Empowering Next Gen Student Leadership. And the presenter for this session is Georgina Dean. I'm going to go ahead and give her hosting rights and we will get started. You should be ready to go.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So good morning. I almost said good afternoon, but I caught myself, so we're good. My name is Georgina Dean, and I am super excited to be here. What a brilliantly powerful keynote session by AJ, so always great to hear from him. And I'm super excited to continue the conversation going with leadership across our school community, not just with students, but also middle leaders and also senior leaders as well. So what I want to do first is just share my screen, and then we will get started. Can you guys see the presentation? If you can just give me a thumbs up in the chat and let me know if you can see me okay. Or feel free to unmute and let me know.
You are good to go.
You can see the screen share?
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Okay, that's great. All right, so there's a little bit.ly link on the bottom. Some people like to follow along the slides at their own pace, or you're welcome just to watch the screen and follow along here. Slide 2 has some information about myself. You can click on all of these little links and they will take you to places where you can find and connect with me in different spaces. So I would love to continue the conversation going with all of you. That's where you can reach me on Twitter and a few other places as well. So today is all about diving into next generation leadership, and what a brilliant time to be doing that after such an epic year that we have had. Ups, downs, challenges, surprises, and lots to celebrate as well. So we're going to today explore the new abnormal. So I know a lot of people are calling it, returning to normal, or will it be something new? I like to call it the abnormal, and I don't really think we ever experience normal because life is constantly changing, and that includes education as well. So we're going to take a look at that. We're going to take a look at something that I call the creative shift seed, which is all about empowering leaders, including student learners, and how we can lead with Spark. So we're going to start first with the new abnormal. And if you do happen to get onto the slide deck, you actually will be able to click on, it's like kind of like a choose your own adventure story Google slide. So you'll be able to click on here to take you to different parts of the deck. And I just want to do a check-in because I don't see anybody on the deck, which is fine if you want to watch on, but if you're not able to access it, just let me know in the chat. Kay and Sarah says, yes, absolutely. So it'll be bit.ly/I2Sdale1. There you go. Perfect. Great. Okay, so the first thing we want to take a look at is, are we surviving or thriving? It was really interesting watching AJ's keynote presentation, because a lot of things that he was talking about you will see revisited in here. But I like to think a bit about time. Are we ready to go beyond the now? Are we still feeling like we're just barely crawling to the summer? Are we trying to survive or thrive in the new abnormal? So let me know on a scale of 1 to 5 in the chat here in the platform, and let me know how you guys are feeling. on a scale of 1 to 5. I've also included in the slide deck, there are embedded links to things that are going to support you through the learning today. So right away, there's the link there to Simon Sinek's There Is No Going Back to the Normal. And that is also listed later on. Kay says she's feeling about a 4. That's really, really positive. So congratulations to you. And you know what? If you're feeling like a 1 or a 2, that is totally okay as well, because everybody is going through these crazy times at their own pace. Great to see some 3s on there, absolutely. So hopefully you guys will have a chance to rest and recharge this summer as well. Okay, so the next thing we're going to take a look at is this idea of discovery. I'd like to take a second for you all to celebrate things that have actually gone really well. So although you may be feeling tired or crawling to that finish line, so to speak, there are lots of things that we can celebrate. So just go ahead and take a minute in the chat and drop one thing that you'd love to celebrate about something that's gone really, really well in the way you have led, whether you're an educator in the classroom, whether you're a middle leader or a senior leader leading the educators or other leaders in your school. Let me know what is something that has gone really well in your ability to support leadership across your classroom or your team or your school. Let me know in the chat. I labeled this slide as discovery while you're all thinking about something you'd like to celebrate in the chat, as I really believe that probably discovering our skills and or rediscovering has been something that's been really powerful. Education technology has seen some epic transformational heights this past year to 18 months, depending on when you experience the pandemic. And it's been a great opportunity for everybody across the education community to really dive in, discover, explore new things. And so that's been something that many have been able to celebrate. So let us know in the chat what you are celebrating. And I'm going to go ahead. We tested this before you guys came into the Zoom room, and it didn't look like the sound was sharing okay, but I'm going to give it a go. Just let me know in the chat if the sound works for you. Tonya says that she spent a great deal of time communicating with parents. Yeah, it was really nice, right? Build those stronger relationships. I always say that education, especially in the classroom, is like a 3-legged team, right? You have the parents, the educator, and then the learner. And what a powerful 3-legged team that is when you're actually able to keep that channel wide open. So hats off to you, Tonya, and I think many others have experienced that too. I see some people are on the slide deck now, so the bit.ly is working. That's great to see. If you'd like to join me on slide 7 and just click play at the same time, because I'm not sure if the sound will work, but we will give it a go. Can you guys hear sound? Just give me a thumbs up or down or a yes or no in the chat. Simon Sinek, if you no sound. Okay, so I'll let you guys watch that. I'll let you guys watch that on your own. It's about 5 minutes long, and he basically is talking about this idea of infinite mindset, and that's no surprise to any educators or leaders in the call today, because infinite mindset is really about that attitude to learning and also attitude to life. That learning is not just something that happens inside the school walls, or if we're in online or hybrid on when the computer opens and you join your Google Classroom or your Schoology or your Zoom room. It happens all across life, you know, and we've seen so many educators upskill currently based on them just trying to have to be able to skill to the current norm, right? So infinite mindset is something really powerful, and I'd really encourage you guys to watch that after the session. Just for time, I'm going to keep moving along then, since it didn't play, but super, super powerful is this idea of infinite mindset, which leads us really nicely into the creative shift seed. So there's some plants there, but you'll also see an icon on the right-hand side with little footsteps. And it's all about those choices we make, right? And those choices, every little seed we plant is going to lead us further down the paths that we choose. And so planting your shift seed is also about creating your own personalized pathway. All right, so some questions. What questions do you think, whether you're an educator, I saw that there's some people working, technologists, librarians, and leaders also in today's session, so it's great to have such a wonderful mix. What do you think are some of the questions that leaders are actually asking right now? So coming to the end of this current academic year, going into the next year, what kinds of questions might they be asking as to how we can start to empower leadership more across the community? So let me know. And I'm just going to go ahead and let some other people in while you guys are dropping some questions in the chat. Let's see here. There we go. Lovely. Welcome to everybody who was in the waiting room. Apologies, I didn't have that part of the window open to let everybody in. So I'm just going to keep clicking admit all, and hopefully that lets everybody in. And I'm also going to go ahead and drop the bit.ly again, if you would like to join me on the deck. Perfect. I have two people in the waiting room, just to let my wonderful moderator know, and it just is stuck on joining. So I've clicked admit a couple times. Hopefully they're able to join in soon. Okay, so heading back over to the chat, some of the questions that leaders are asking currently right now, at least in my part of the world, since I'm joining you all from Amman, Jordan in the Middle East today, we're asking questions like, when we return to school, is it going to be hybrid? Is it going to be online? Is it going to be in person? And it's always shifting. We've had 2 successful reentries here in Jordan, one at the beginning of this academic year and one in February of this year. And then within about 3 weeks into that reentry, the whole country was shut down again, and we've been in online learning ever since. But these are some of questions that we're asking, and also these silver lining takeaways that we have from the current abnormal. How are we going to be able to make sure that we take what's been good, again, just like you heard AJ say, and actually be able to mirror and also blend that with the excellent traditional practice that has been happening in the classroom already. So how can we blend it, reimagine, and reinvent that new space? And then, as some of you may very well have guessed, how are we supporting SEL? How are we making sure that those relationships, that well-being, that social emotional aspect is right in the center of education? So when we have those things in mind, we ask ourselves, right, well, who are going to be the ones that are going to be supporting any of those questions? And when we think about strategic development across the school community, we want to see how can we actually involve all stakeholders, involve every member of the community when responding to those questions. Thanks, Brooke. That's super nice of you. And Tanya is saying that they've lost much of the extracurricular culture. How can we reshape it? I love that. And I love your use of culture as extracurricular, because guess what? Life is all about culture across all aspects. School life is part of our life culture is part of our school culture. And I absolutely love that, Tanya. Thank you so much for sharing that. So absolutely very important questions, which leads us nicely to the next slide, asking what kinds of skills do you think we should all be continuing to build then? We heard AJ talk about some really powerful ideas like jobs that are going to be coming up, right? He talked a little bit about artificial intelligence. I just finished an ISTE course for AI actually last month. Really, really powerful to see where we're actually headed. And it makes us sit back and think, okay, as educators and as leaders, are we actually supporting that shift in culture in our classrooms and in our schools to support the skills that will be needed? So let me know in the chat, guys, if you want, what kinds of skills you think are going to be needed in order for us to move forward from where we are now. And while you guys are dropping those, these are some articles, and if you click on the images, they all have links to the articles where I have found this information and these images from. So employability is a really big thing. You heard AJ talk about communication and collaboration. Those are 2 of the 4 C's, which are now developing into the 6. And I've read some articles diving into the 7 C's. So we want to think about like those 6 C's, and then what are employers actually looking for? Because at the end of the day, when the learners, because in an education organization, what is at the heart is the students, right? If we think about it, education is not unlike the business world, right? We have our customers, and our customers are our students. And what is the goal for our customers, our students, our learners, are to be able to thrive when they get out into the real world after their academic education journey ends. Not that the learning will ever end, as we talked about earlier as lifelong learners, but just inside the educational system. These are the skills they're going to need. So we have to start to think about, what are we doing to empower that? And how are we providing the opportunity for those early adopters, those people in our classrooms, the learners, the assistants, the educators, that actually have developed strong sense of these skills? How are we empowering them to lead our community forward? So feel free to dig into those after. Yes, absolutely. Let me just go in here and see the waiting room. Am I able to make 2 of us co-hosts? I only see 1 person there, and I keep clicking admit, but it's not. Oh, she's in now. Perfect. Awesome. Welcome to another Tonya. Nice to have you here today. Great. Okay, so we'll move right along. I want to leave some time open for questions. I know people often want to ask me how I'm doing what I'm doing over here, so we'll leave some time for questions. This is our shift seed, and it's basically an icon that I've taken from the Noun project. You'll see that all of the accreditations are listed below in the speaker notes, so you'll be able to see them all there. And this idea inside the shift seed, as I'm sure you probably all know how plants grow and pollinate, et cetera, et cetera. So we have those little seeds, right? And how are we planting them? So we need to be able to identify, as I said earlier, those earlier adopters and or those learners that are really showing strength. And when I like to build my digital leaders teams, I currently moved to the school in Jordan 2 years ago. And I've just certified 3 brand new Google certified education trainers just last week, actually, and we're applying to become a Google reference school next week. And when I started, there were no digital leaders. We weren't using shared drives. There were no Google Classrooms. So when I came in as Director of Learning Technology, I supported the school with their digital transformation. And how did I start? I planted my shift seed. I grabbed a few educators that I saw were early adopters, and I said, hey, let's help support the rest of the school with the awesome things that you're doing and harnessing in your classroom. So we started out as 3, and now I have 16 educators spanning across our K-12 school on our digital leaders team. I've got the participants window open, so I keep letting people in. I've got my eye on it now. Okay. So welcome to all those who are joining now. So this is the idea. How are we building those teams, and how are they helping drive the mission and the vision of the school, but also that shift to what the students need to be successful in their journey. We talk about giving into growth. So take a risk to plant the seed and watch it grow. The growth of this shift seed is equal to the balance shift in classroom and school leadership. So we also think about the role of the educator, the role of a leader in an organization. And I want you guys really to think about, and if you've experienced this already or you have stories, please feel free to share in the comments as well. We want to think about this idea of turning the educator into a facilitator of learning, so that if we think of it like a travel experience, right? I'm really, really excited and looking forward to hopefully by 2022, I guess, traveling again. And I like to make an analogy to travel, that when we go there, we may have tour guides or we may have people helping us with things. But often when we travel to new places, we're discovering ourselves, right? We get out the Google Maps, maybe we ask somebody at the local store, and we start to find our way. And it's that idea of the learning journey and that idea of growth in the class, that we just empower somebody with a little task. Hey, would you like to teach this? Would you like to do this? And just watch them flourish. And then they go and tell their friend in the class, their classmate. Then they go and tell another educator in another school, in another district, et cetera. And it just grows until you're empowering leaders. The big idea here for giving into growth is the idea that everybody in your school community is a leader. And I know AJ spoke a little bit about that in his keynote as well, is that everybody is the leader. And this is really big for myself. I currently am writing a book on creative leadership actually right now. So stay tuned for that. Connect definitely through the bio slide. And that idea that everybody in the community is the leader. Often organizations have this top-down approach, right? We have the headmaster, the principal, the director, whatever the role is in whatever country you're in. And then we have the leaders, right? And they're supporting. Well, why isn't it bottom up, right? A plant grows from the seed up and it flourishes and it grows upwards. So why aren't we as an education community, and again, this is what I open it up to all of you, why aren't we growing our school culture from the bottom up, from the center of where the organization exists, which is student centricity, right, with our learners? So this is what I encourage all of you to think about as we move forward. Slide number 15 is this idea that I've been talking to you about with the role reversal. So shifting the balance between the educator, the leaders being the leaders, and the ones giving information and guiding the way. When a student asks me, can you please tell me X, Y, Z? Can you please tell me how to do ABC? I always return that question with, what a great question. When you figure it out, let me know because I'd love to learn too. It's that idea of how are we shifting it so that we're not providing all the answers, but we're helping them develop those critical thinking skills and giving them that student agency to follow that learning path by themselves. So I put a few ideas down here for you. I'm obviously not reading from my slides, but a couple of ones is celebrating risk-taking. This builds confidence. Every time, and AJ talked about failure, right, in his keynote presentation. The idea here is that we are taking risks and that we are also celebrating the risks that our students in the classroom as well as our educators are taking to empower that shifting culture, empower that leadership, empower those new skills built. So make sure that you're taking time to celebrate the wins as well as the losses and or failures. Choice boards are a great way to do it. Peer staff nomination. So you could nominate. You could have a side conversation with the student in your classroom and say, hey, I love what you did on the iPad here. I love what you did with your Chromebook. I love what you did on your mobile phone because that's the only device you have at school today. Would you like to teach the rest of the class how to do that? Give them the chance to step into leadership. So lots of ideas for you guys to take away there. Slide 16 and moving down is all about leading with spark. So I'm also just keeping an eye on the time as I was navigating Zoom earlier. So I'm just going to whip through these a little bit faster, but you have the deck now that you can keep an eye on it later. This is a really powerful article for myself called The 10 Strategies to Promote Curiosity. And I like to call it the candle of curiosity. You know, it's that idea of when a young child is learning, they're curious about the world around them, right? And then it goes through the stages of development, etc. But how do we take that curiosity stage that we see in KG, kindergarten, early years, and how do we keep it burning all throughout the education journey? The idea is that we want to keep them curious. Well, in order for them to be curious, they have to want to learn something. They have to be happy learners, and they want to have to choose and make their own pathway. So these are things to keep in mind. And I do encourage you to take a look at that article on your own time. These are some other articles as well, and if you click on the article, I've embedded the link, and you'll also find the link down below in the speaker's notes. Everything is listed for you there. So something important here is building human skills. This was a really, really pertinent one when thinking about those 21st century skills, so you can take a look at those. Another article on slide 19 was talking about the skills for students, and this one here Specifically, number 7, identify a support system, talks all about building relationships, pursuing your interests. AJ again talked about that 20% idea, same as Google. Are we giving students space to just dive into what they want to? So not just having a choice board for them to choose from, but do we have an empty box on the choice board? Do we have like a candle? Do we have a spark icon on the choice board that says, hey, this is a space for you to pick what you want to learn and empower them? I promise you, you will see your community flourish. Slide 20, another one from the Brain Station blog, looking at the importance of soft skills. And if you scroll further down in the article, looking for lessons from the pandemic. The next slides are really just some examples from my own, as I wanted to make sure that I give you guys opportunity for examples of how I have empowered digital leader students as well as educators in my community. So the first thing I did was open up a staff continuous professional learning is what CPL stands for. So it's continuous professional learning and for staff. And so we divided it into the topics on the left that you see there. Well-being is definitely important, blended learning, online learning, restorative practice, there's all sorts in there. And then we set topics and staff can also add also. So depending on who you empower as your middle leaders, who you empower as those early adopters, they can also be educators in your Google Classroom. This is also definitely possible in spaces like Microsoft Teams, in Schoology, in Canva, in Moodle. They all have the ability to do this. So just at my school, we're using Google Classroom, so that's where the examples come from. Guess what? The next slide, slide 22, is my favorite slide. It is the hero icon. You are all heroes on this call. You've taken time out of your day to come and join us and learn with us and share with us. And I'm so grateful for that. I'm hoping to connect with all of you. So please feel free to drop your Twitter handles in the chat. I would love to follow and keep the conversation going. This hero image here is also that the people you support are heroes as well. And what are we doing to help them get there? So I also set up a Google Classroom for my student digital leaders. I have a high school digital leader team of students that can volunteer to sign up. It started out as an extracurricular and just actually goes all year round. And they were empowered to do staff training. So guess what? It's not just Georgina and her team of other trainers that are giving staff professional development. The student digital leaders are also giving training. So we did a carousel, and this is an example of students, group of 4, that gave staff training on how to learn how to use Google Drawings to amplify virtual and visual learning in the classroom. So that's one example there. They also dived into creating identity and culture. And so we talked about that culture piece a lot before. This is examples of them creating badges in Photoshop and Adobe Illustrator to really create that identity. Empowering them as leaders starts with letting them have an identity. So that's another important piece as well. Okay, we only have a few minutes left. These last slides are anyway takeaways for all of you. When we talk about the shift seed, it needs to be nurtured, right? We don't just plant a seed and then hope that it's going to grow into this beautiful flower. It needs nutrients, right? It needs water, it needs sunlight, it needs air. So when you're considering empowering leaders across your school community that start in the classrooms and move forward, these are things you need to consider. And just in case anybody's wondering, back in the day when I was working in Cairo, Egypt, I did work in a year 2, like grade 3 and a grade 5 classroom as an elementary primary teacher. And this was my first experiences as in empowering student leaders within those classes in year 2 and year 4. And it's really powerful to see students go into other grade 2 classrooms with their iPads and teach other students. That the teacher and students of another classroom are learning from students that I've empowered in my classroom. So it is possible at any age. I just wanted to take a moment to mention that you can start at any age to do that. So staff development, alternative assessments, those don't have to be standardized. You can create portfolios, Google Sites, Google Slides, etc. And above all, creative spaces. And just in case anybody here hasn't heard, we have things like Clubhouse, we have Twitter Spaces, and for students, there's a new thing just come out called GatherTown. It's looks a little bit like Minecraft as far as a user interface, and it's little spaces where students have a little Minecraft character. They can move them into a room of 6, and the audio only works in that space. So the teacher and the students can go, you can choose video on or off in that platform. It's called GatherTown, and they can go and chat together. Really great for like guided reading groups, really great for like drama productions, practicing if you're going to do a virtual theater as well. So loads and loads there. These are 10 ways your shift seed will spark. So we talked about that curiosity, candle of curiosity. If you click on the things that are underlined, I've linked in loads of goodies for you guys to create safe spaces online in order to allow students and leaders also to empower them to take the next steps. Student centricity obviously is at the center. I talked about that a lot. Parent community, daily cell, there's loads in there to unpack, guys. So I'll leave you with all of that. And the last message before our lovely moderators bring me to a close is that it only takes one brave leader to take the risk. And you'll be pleasantly surprised how many more will follow suit and ask to take initiative to take the next lead. So you just have to plant that first shift seed with one student in your classroom, one middle leader, one senior leader, one early adopter, and just watch the spark go. Be bold, be brave, and be the leader you want them to be, because why? The future is in their hands. So on slide 30, there is a link to a feedback form. I'll just drop that in the chat. If you don't mind taking a couple of minutes to fill that in, I would be so grateful. And I would love to leave it open for questions. I think we have 2 minutes before the ladies cut me off. But if you have any questions, please feel free just to unmute. You're welcome to, or drop them in the chat.
Ms. Dean, would you mind making Atara a co-host again so that she can
Oh, with pleasure.
share? And then if anyone has questions, please feel free to drop those in the chat here, or if you want to drop them on Attendify, if you're using the chat on Attendify, I'm watching that as well. So either would be fine, and we'd be happy to pose those questions.
Oh, that's lovely. Tara said she loved the blank choice board square. I'm really glad you said that, because it's really empowered some of my learners creating video games, just watching those learners that really felt like they weren't interested, and you see them and you're trying to support them, etc. And then all of a sudden you just give them that one square, right? That one block on a choice board, and you just watch the spark flourish. So that's great that you took that away, Tara. Thanks for sharing. All right, well, if there is no other questions, I'm really, really excited to share all about the Shift Seed, empowering the next gen of student leadership. I hope you'll be able to take some of these takeaways, and I hope they'll be able to help you some of the ideas that we talked about today. And I would definitely encourage you all to watch Simon Sinek's Life Will Not Be the Same. It really is a game changer, and I wish you all the best of luck. I'm looking forward to learning from others in the rest of the session today, and I also have another session in a couple hours actually on professional development and professional learning, so would love to see you guys back there if you're interested in diving into a different topic together. I'll pass it back to you then.
Thank you so much for attending. That concludes our session. If you need a certificate of your attendance today, you can use the QR code that we have present. And if not, that concludes. Thank you so much. We appreciate you.
Thank you for joining this session. To request a certificate of attendance, you can access the link at the bottom of the session description, scan the QR code here, or go to bit.ly/I2 certificate. Bit.ly shorteners are case sensitive, so please be sure to use all uppercase letters. Hear what insight other I2 attendees and presenters might have on this session and other breakout sessions by connecting with the Innovation Institute community on Facebook or Twitter at I2 Estale or in Attendify's interactive features. And don't forget to mark your calendar for June 8th and 9th to join us for I2 2022. Thank you.